welcome our first guest for the day. His name is Shalabh Pradhan. He has come before, so some of you who have been regularly following our podcast would have met him before. But here is Shalabh Pradhan. Welcome, Shalabh. Very, very warm
Hey,
welcome.
thanks, Suresh. Hello, everyone.
Shalabh, in simple, Sida Sada English, what is your current role?
So I'm a pre-sales engineer. I'm working as the designation is solution engineer for the mid-market segment at Microsoft. I have been here for over a decade. I have worked in multiple roles across engineering and the sales side of things. In my most recent role, I was a go-to-market manager, and I'm working directly with customers on securing AI and their overall workload infrastructure, cloud, etc.
Fantastic. And is it all just work, work, all work, no play makes Shalabh a dull boy, or you have some hobbies also?
No. I like traveling a lot. So I have a goal to cover the entire coastline of India. I've been able to do about one third of it, but probably in the next year or so, I think I'll be able to make it up. So
Are you a fish person by any chance?
not much, no. But
Not
I just
much.
like the I just like the sea. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Okay. So now we are going to invite our second guest for the day. Okay. And his name is Aman Malhotra. A warm welcome to you, Aman. You are coming to our show for the first time. So a very, very warm welcome to you. And yeah, so first, what's your current role in terms of what you do at Microsoft?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Suresh, for having me here. And as per role, the official title is Security and AI Global Black Belt. The name is a bit heavy, I would say, but as you
Black belt.
said, yeah.
Fine.
So this people think of it as process consulting, yellow belt, black belt. The concept is similar, but I will tell you the meaning of the role in very, very simple words. Imagine a hospital, imagine medical terms. So for security and AI field, we have people on the ground, we have sales guys, we have pre-sales guys, we have architects, we have product teams, everyone. But then we are like the surgeons of that category. So when you need a surgeon to come and operate someone, it can be internal Microsoft, a customer, it can be a query, it can be anything. So that's why you see one black belt per region, and then you are expected to come and operate or do the most complex surgeries. And that can be internal, external, anywhere, or it can come from anywhere. So this was one that came to my mind, maybe the easiest way to explain what we
Right.
do.
And yes, I agree. It's better to call yourself a black belt rather than a surgeon, right? Because then we
The
go in a very different direction altogether. Absolutely.
accountability increases.
Yeah, then the whole ball game changes completely. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So with those introductions in place, we should set the ball rolling. First, we have got three segments. First segment would be about the context and the risks part of the AI. And so here is the question. The AI adoption is increasing. In fact, when I do my customer workshops, there I show a slide where the adoption of internet to hit 100 million users took around 7 years, and ChatGPT took about 2 months, 3 months, right? So it's a phenomenal rate of adoption. But with this increase in adoption, explosion rather, what are the biggest security and compliance risks that you see? Because some of my customers are actually more worried about those aspects. Do you think SMBs face the same level of risk as large enterprises, or is it a little different? So, Shalabh, you'd like to take it up?
Yeah. Thanks, Suresh. I think the SMB space is particularly most vulnerable because I think the AI adoption, like you yourself said, like it has practically exploded. There has been an exponential increase. More so for the SMBs. A lot of SMBs work as ancillaries for big industries. and without enterprise grade protection for some of these tools, because the tools, even if you see their software life cycle, the way they have come up, they're really feature rich, they have made our lives easy, but there are obviously security and compliance related challenges. And even so, for SMBs which work with limited workforce on security, they mostly work with a managed partner, and they work with serving multiple industries at some time. So both from a compliance perspective and a security perspective, there are increased challenges, and more so because the workforce is limited. So yeah.
Right. And why are the companies so anxious about this uncontrolled AI usage? Aman, you'd like to take this up?
Yeah, maybe I would start by saying that to Shalab's point, what he said, there's a good saying that we use, especially what I use when I'm talking to SMBs or companies who are leaner but more hungry than the bigger ones, right? So the thing is, if you can't secure it, you can't scale it. So everybody wants it. Like Shalab was saying, if I am a Microsoft, if I am a TCS, and please, I might take some names and examples. No endorsement to anything, but if I am a big company, I am not short of people. I will have 100 people team. I can figure out ways to do stuff. But if I am from the SMB space, I have more hunger, more intensity to prove myself with very lean team. So that's where AI adoption is uh, by default. You need it. But having said that, there is uncontrolled AI usage as well. Like for example, if I am working for a company, I might have 10-15 AI apps already in my phone nowadays. Something like if somebody is active on Twitter, they might have Grok. Uh, Airtel users nowadays, at least in India, have Perplexity and all those things, right? People are using AI applications for photo editing, for emails, whatnot. Now, the AI application that as a CISO I might be using and enforcing might be totally different. But my biggest worry, and the question that you were asking is, my biggest worry is when my employee or my team member brings the laptop and logs in, for example, into ChatGPT, and I don't have an enterprise premium version, it's open internet, and puts my document into that chat and ask a follow-up question. How can I track it, right? So there are too many things, and that's where uh, again I will use a line: with great power comes great responsibility. So the power and the advantages are huge for AI, but that's where we need to ensure that we are using it responsibly, and we have the security concepts in place as well. So that's where I think the word the anxious and the concern comes in for AI. I would say, but on the other side, see, banning AI isn't a reality. AI is here, and people have to adopt AI and move with it. So it's just that how you can safely adopt it, enforce it, and ensure that your people and your employees are using it in a responsible way as well.
So here I'd like to share my perspective. I've been working with a lot of customers. At some of my customer locations, the companies say, we have a policy, no AI. So I tell them, hello, nice, you have a policy, no AI, but I can give you in writing, every single person is using AI, right? And because you don't have a clear policy, and because everybody is kind of in a free-fold kind of manner, your information is getting leaked out. So that's, I think, something. Having no policy is not a great idea. We should have a policy, lay down the tools, what should be used, what should not be used, how. That's my thought process, because this has happened in the customer discussions and conversations which we have, really speaking.
And see, to your point, maybe Shalab, you might be young, but sir, you might know. 20 years back, maybe I think 2000, 2005 era, same when we used to talk to customers and talk internally, that time people used to say, don't bring phones with camera, don't bring phones with a messenger app. Similar things, right? You can't stop it. You have to live with it and see how things will move and use technology to your advantage.
Perfect. That's a good example. I remember, I very much remember. We purchase phones without camera policy. I say, good for you, right? That's how it is. So yeah, now let's move to the second segment. Second segment is about monitoring and governance aspect. So everyone has some kind of AI apps, right? Literally, there's an explosion happening. People use AI models for photos, write emails. Company may provide one tool, but individuals kind of use multiple tools. How can we ensure proper governance in such situation? More so with the organizational data. Shalabh, you want to go ahead with this?
So I'll start and probably like I'll let Aman can also add in here. I
No,
think
this is a
the
very
main
super important point. That's why.
it is super important, and like you said, right? You may approve one app. Let's say you're approving, enterprise grade Copilot, but people may be using something else because they know more about it, or they probably have used it at home and they find it easier. So discovery is the first aspect, right? What type of AI or what we practically call as shadow AI applications are running in your organization? How compliant are they with the various standards? Because we have all seen examples, like I don't want to name companies, but there have been cases where people have just wanted to fix code. They post it on a popular application known for coding, and then that get leaked anywhere else. So that we have seen the repercussion of something like that if you're not running enterprise grade environment and if you don't have visibility. Second is of course the monitoring component. What type of information is flowing inside the AI LLM application, right? Is it compliant with your organization policy? Are people trying to jailbreak that so that more information can be extracted? The most famous example will be this. I mean, this one is much more famous. I'll name it. It's the super base attack that happened, where the actually it was an overprivileged user, but ultimately the MCP, it was the first breach of the MCP protocol that happened. So you should be able to monitor and guardrail the amount of information you're sending it and the response that is coming back. And then of course then you need to be able to take remediation action accordingly. So all three aspects are much more important, more so as people just use AI much more throughout their day than they are dealing with other applications. People will be writing prompts to write email than actually typing emails. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, anything you'd like to add as well?
Yeah, see, good points. I think visibility, what Shalabh started with, visibility is very, very important because again, you can only protect or you can only measure what you can see, kind of thing, right? So you need to ensure what is being used. One another thing I would like to say is some steps we should also take. Like I'm speaking from my experience for my team and what I see in different customer organizations as well. It's good to, for example, define something that is safe to use, define some good AI applications and define some bad AI applications. I remember when, maybe not to go on that side, but when that China application stuff happened, the government also came up with some list, right? So it's always good to have a list like these are enterprise level AI applications. These are much more better and safer. These are at your own risk kind of apps. So this is good. Third, from the information security era, when we transition from information security to cyber security and now AI, awareness program has always been the key thing. Everybody focuses on awareness programs, right? No tailgating. It started with tailgating to password MFAs and now AI. So with AI also, we should do all that awareness programs. Like for example, I don't want to name the company, but I went to a company and their screensaver was coming up. Trust is the currency of AI. And the screensavers were changing. So I really liked it, although we were not able to adopt it. But so these are some things that we should do. But on a technical side as well, see, you should have some data boundaries. Like for example, at Microsoft, what we also do is if I have a document in my desktop and I open my Gmail or a iCloud Drive or a Google Drive, you should have those data boundaries, which are TLP policies and other policies to define that I can't just copy paste everything, because I can't educate everyone in the village, but still I need to ensure I have the right controls. It is also good to have some good gateways, good proxies to ensure what's going coming, and maybe have something like a grounding or some kind of enforcement in place to ensure everything is going on smooth. So these are extra, I would say, some things that we can do over and above what Shalabh mentioned.
You're not,
You are on mute, Suresh.
Suresh, you're on mute.
So I think the starting point is to know what you're using. But
Correct.
beyond that, I think uh, controls are also simple, because if you are not, if anything which is your corporate data can be shared in any way, and that's where I believe WhatsApp is the biggest culprit in India. Okay, single biggest culprit in India. So, I mean, uh, if you can figure out a way, and there are ways available, we probably will talk during the course of this discussion, then it's a safe thing to do. Like, okay, this will not go here. Simple, end of the story, right? Okay. Now, having discussed that, linked question would be, what role does identity and access management play in this AI security part?
Maybe before we go into that question, I will give a perspective on this question.
Sure,
So
please.
see, how things are changed. Like I will give an example of what we do and how we are handling this kind of things. So imagine I have 50 people in my team. Now I am using 20 agents in my team. So technically, if you see, I have 50 human employees and 20 machine employees. So my Entra admin, who's managing my identities, will manage 70 identities now. That's how important identity and access management is in AI. So this was just an example to begin with. You cannot, like, I cannot have agent. Now it is so easy to make agents. Like, I know Microsoft last week announced that you can write in English and create agents, right? It is so easy to create agents. Now, if I have 20 agents of my own on my name, I am accountable and responsible for those agents, right? First of all. Second, if I don't have, for example, if I don't have access to files from Shalab's team, that does not mean my agent will have access to it, right? So that's, I'm just talking very high level and very simple concept level. That's how important identity and access management becomes. Now, to go into the question and things, now when you think of agent and LLM, then there is API, there is models, there is protocols interacting with each other. There is vector. Like for example, a model itself can't do much, right? If you put a question, the model will have to go somewhere, fetch some information, break it down, perform an action, come back. Who defines what access the agent has or the model has? Who defines what authorized action for an agent is and what is not? So authorization, authentication, access management, everything comes into the picture, and it's very, very important. Maybe I just explained it in a very, very simple way, but that's how it is. Now, I just want to maybe give a different perspective to it as well, and then maybe I open it to Shalab as well. See why it is also important. Think from the other side of the story. Now, for example, I am from the compliance team and not from the technology team. Now I am doing my audits, 27,001, 42,001. I am doing my audits. I need that traceability. I need the accountability. I need each and every proof and trace audit trail that is available for each technology, whether it's an agent, whether it's a server, whether it's a container. So that's why it becomes very, very important to have not identity and access management controls in place for all the things that I mentioned. And this is, of course, at a concept level. But if we deep down, there's a lot of things like least privilege, zero trust, a lot of concepts that a company follow at organization level. So it all complies with those pillars as well. Maybe Shalab,
Shalab,
anything from your side?
something to add from your side?
No, I think completely aligned. One more thing that I can probably add from an identity standpoint, right, is the increasing importance of non-human identities, right? Because ultimately we have been growing up with the era of impersonation, right? Like back in the day when I used to work on IS, there used to be an account which will get impersonated, and through that, the transactions will happen inside your backend SQL or wherever the website is connecting to. Today, agents, and then maybe in the IT team, you will have a service account which is used to do few things, right? But with the agents coming in, and then agents also performing certain tasks, it's all about governing your non-human identity. And remember, the traditional controls that we have been putting are not 100% applicable on these non-human identities. Like There's no definite way to have a proper multi-factor auth for them. You need to very much rely on their behavioral analytics and risk, and then see probably if you can tie it with condition, I mean, something like a conditional access. They need that much more vigilance and that much more control so that they can only act within their boundary. They don't go rogue. Maybe you can jailbreak an LLM application, but for it to do something, it needs two things. One, it needs to be able to have access to the data, which I did. Maybe it's you're trying to you jailbreak it to give you the most important financial information. But of what if that data itself is protected? You'll not get it. Or maybe if you are able to get access to the agent, which goes ahead and reboots machines, or does something like that. What if that particular account does not have that permission on all the machines, right? So access management from an identity standpoint will be much more crucial for non-human identities.
Pretty much what
Maybe,
you're saying is that we should have a proper defined, just as we define identity access policies for people, we should have
Yeah.
for the AI agents also. Right, Aman? You wanted to add something?
yeah, maybe I will. While Shalabh was speaking, I was thinking of an example as well. Let me put a third layer to it now. Make it very, very simple. So everybody agrees to the importance of identity. Imagine we three are working in the same company and we are running a SOC. Now we three are analysts, and now I have built an agent which is a phishing triage agent, and it is working on my behalf, maybe in the night or wherever when I am not online. Now somebody in the company submits a phishing report, and my agent goes away and marks it safe. And tomorrow, the next day, for example, Sharaf discovers that it was not a false positive, it was actually an incident. So it goes and traces back. So how should he come to know that it was marked safe? It was marked safe by me as a human or by my agent first. Second, if it was marked as an agent, it's not finger pointing, but if it was marked by the agent, that means I need to go back and fix some code or fix some flows, right? That it is letting some things pass. So such small and real life examples tells you why audit trails, why identity, why tracking, traceability is very, very important, and what has access to what basically.
Okay. Yeah, got it. So I think there's a whole big story and the chapter which is going to emerge on AI governance now, essentially, right? That's how it is. Fantastic. So what we are going to do is there's one chat drop by our team. Which AI tools are most used in your organization? Request people on the call to look at it, and if you can just post it here, that will be fantastic. In addition to that, there's another question. I'm just dropping it in the chat in the Q&A question where I am saying that which guardrail do you have in do you have any kind of a guardrail in your company, whether DLP or multi-factor or whatever? So I've just put in that question in the Q&A chat. If you uh, have something which you're using, please do share it here. That will help us understand the audience in terms of what is the real practical things which is happening in the field, right? Okay, so we have taken the section 2. Now this third segment, yeah, this would be the favorite segment of Amar and Shalab, right? Actually, me also, because it's going to talk about best practices and Microsoft technologies which can help you, right? That's the kind of stuff we live, eat, breathe Microsoft technologies. So Microsoft is a leader today in AI, and obviously Microsoft has done a lot of stuff on AI governance and best practices. So be great to talk on this topic. What practical steps, and by the way, before we get into it, my team is going to also share one link on baseline AI security checklist. So we have prepared on our website, there's a page called baseline security checklist for SMBs. So we will post it, have a look at it. That's a reference point for all of you on the call. So the third segment is Microsoft technologies and best practices. What practical steps can businesses take to monitor and safeguard AI interactions? That's part one of the question. And what Microsoft technologies can help SMBs secure AI adoption end to end? I'll ask this to both of you. Aman, you
Yeah,
go
and
ahead.
maybe you can go first. I can take the latter part. Yeah.
Okay. So see, when I listen to that question, I hear two words, what and how. So what practical steps that you mentioned. So first is get visibility. I think we keep coming back to this point every time when we start a discussion, get visibility into what is going on. Second, data. Data is the oil for any AI. So data, protect your data first, ensure there is classification, labeling, you have data flow maps. If a document is confidential, it should be labeled confidential. It should not be allowed to, like for example, Suresh, you were mentioning about Microsoft. So people who have been interacting with Microsoft in the last 6 months, I'm sure everybody has faced a problem where we have sent you a document and you were not able to open. So that level of restrictions and confidentialities are needed. When I am sending a document to someone, I need to ensure the proper controls, proper classification, proper labeling is done so that there is a accountability and a consent and an action needed to ensure that access is needed or not. So again, zero trust pillars principles come into the picture as well. Third, you need to govern access and identities, conditional access, least privilege, everything that we talked about, I think in the last part, all that is important. You need to start having some clear internal AI policies. I see a lot of companies defining AI policy, like we were talking about education, which are good applications to use, which are not good applications to use, and all those things. And then guardrails and gateways are very, very important. If if I ask a question how to create a bomb, it should not tell me how to create a bomb, right? So you need a guardrail in between, you need a gateway in between. So that's why, so that is the what part of the question, how it can be done and how Microsoft is doing. So we are doing a lot of things, maybe in simple way, in simple words, if I explain. So there's something called DMU. It's an industry concept, DMU. So that's data model usage. So ensure that you have these three pillars covered. Data, because data is 80% of the stuff. If your data is secure, properly labeled and everything, it's security by design. So as data will move towards usage, the same controls will apply. So data controls you need it, very important. Then model itself. Ideally, models can be of three types: IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. If you are using a SaaS, for example, you are buying a Copilot, a Gemini, or any other famous SaaS product, you don't have to worry about core security principles. Microsoft and the other big companies are ensuring security for it. But if you are building an application over a platform, or if you are building a model from the scratch, you need to ensure proper pen testing, proper authentication, encryption, everything. Red teaming is done. Then security becomes your responsibility. But for a SMB point of view, I think mostly I see them moving towards PaaS and SaaS. And the last part is usage, where all the controls come into the picture that I was talking previously. So DMU. Now this DMU is also extending because AI is moving very, very fast. So we have something called AVP added to it, agent vector protocols. So now agents, like I was saying, you need to have machine identities. You need to track what agent is doing. You need to test the impact assessment, analysis, everything for it. Vector is basically your databases, your repository of data, who has access to what. And protocol is nothing but your API security. Different servers, so different LLMs communicate via different protocols. A lot of companies are merging it with that API communication as well. So you need to ensure that protocol security is there as well. So these are different principles that you need to do before you start going into that threat protection mode. And once these six pillars are sorted, and what Microsoft is also doing, then you move towards runtime protection. Like you do pen testing, you do regular posture checks, you do workload protections of your AI, you do data security checks, you have guardrails, so you will monitor everything. You will send all this data to the SIM. Now, I will tell you one more point. It's SIM, right? The SIM, every SIM nowadays have a feature called UEBA, but user and entity behavior. Entities are mostly network entities. None of the UEBA has or has use cases that are tailored to agents and LLMs. That's where what we are trying to do is build, for example, a UEBA for AI can be model drift detection use case. And then there can be more. So you need to ensure your SIM is ready to take that data inside. So how Microsoft is doing, maybe to summarize, one, we have something called Defender for AI that does posture management, workload protection, everything. We have something called Purview for AI. Purview is basically literal meaning it is protection of data. And then within that, you get DLPs, data security, governance, compliance, everything responsible AI as well. We have something called MDA, Defender for Applications, if you're using SaaS applications like Gemini, Grok, and a lot of others. And then, of course, Sentinel that sits on the top, because all the data should go to the SIM, and your SIM should be ready with to take that data and do something about it. Most of the SIMs don't have the UEBA use cases right now for AI and agents. Of course, I assume that everybody will be building it, but that's how Microsoft is doing. So we follow all these principles that I talked about to protect AI and AI usage internally in our thing. One last thing I want to mention before I open up for Shalabh. There is a horizontal that cuts across all this, which is content safety and responsible AI. While you are putting all the security controls, there's something called a responsible AI and a content safety that you need to follow that should be cutting across all this pillar, irrespective at what stage you are. So this is basically the model that we use and that can be replicated and used by others as well. Maybe Shalabh, you want to add anything?
Shalabh, what you could do is, Aman has mentioned quite a few pieces which are maybe slightly more relevant for the larger organizations, but in like things like, SIM tools and all that may or may not be very relevant for the smaller. So for smaller companies, what would be your recommendations?
Yeah, I think for so just taking this from what Aman said, right? I think some of the things will be applicable, but even before that point, right, we have something called as the AI shared responsibility model. Probably if the team can look up and put in a link, or otherwise I'll put in a link shortly. What that defines is, right, it defines it into three categories, like SaaS based solutions, let's say like Copilot, and then there is PaaS services running on Foundry, and then there's something completely IaaS where you host it yourself, and you want to do something, maybe you put it in a Azure Confidential Computing, etc. What I have seen is mid-market segment, SMB segment mostly relies on SaaS applications like Copilot, which are running in, right? And that's what they mostly, use to govern or, run their data at runtime. So from that perspective, and vast majority of customers, I think Business Premium forms the base layer that they should definitely go with. Because with Business Premium, you do get Azure Information Protection, or now what we call as Microsoft Information Protection. So you get basic, data discovery, your ability to, label it, put in, proper guardrails. Second, some sort of discovery you get with, MDCA, and then you also have Entra ID P2, which will help you, define at least the humans which are, running those particular workloads. That is as far as, trying to govern data from the M365 stack standpoint. At least when you don't want there to be a situation, you just put in a somebody puts in a data and gets the most important details of your finance. Maybe that has all the salary structure of each employee, right? So at least those data can be labeled and protected in time. The second aspect is, of course, from the Azure side, and that's, I think, where the concept of an LLM firewall comes in, which is what you get with Prompt Shields. Now, I do realize that not everybody is, on Azure. Most people will still be, running workloads of Office 365, running, Business Premium, which is fine. But if you are running something in Azure, and at least that's what I have seen, the budgets for AI is, exceeding the IT, like it's coming in from all departments because they want to augment their existing capacity. At that point of time, at least on the very basic side, I would highly recommend enabling Defender for AI, because what that does is you get a rock solid LLM firewall backed by Azure AI Prompt Shields, that will be able to check in each response which is going in and which is coming out if you are running those custom um, LLM application on your Azure. So Defender for AI will prevent that that piece. Or if you're not, or maybe if you're hosting it yourself, other aspects of Defender for Cloud, like Defender for Containers or Defender for Servers, will provide you with that level of security. So between these two things, I think you will be able to cover most of your AI related, challenges. And like Aman said, responsible AI forms the base layer. More than a thing to be applied, it is something that each organization, I think, needs to practice there as well. Like the type of questions you are trying to ask, like, fairness, grounding, are those things in there? How's the LLM responding? So some amount of user training is needed as well for those, 7 principles, I think. Yeah, 7 or 5, I forgot.
Now, how does Microsoft ensure responsible AI and compliance in its own AI offerings? In very simple words, if you could just, you mentioned few things, Aman, already. You part answered that, but are there gaps in your answer which could be filled up? I don't know.
So at Microsoft, we have 6 core principles that we follow: blind, responsible AI principles, fairness, reliability, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. Yeah, 6. So these 6 are the principles that we follow. Uh, we have a dedicated, just for knowledge of everyone, if anyone is interested, we have papers and white papers, principles on our framework, everything available on our website if anybody wants to go through just to understand how we define it. But uh, talking from a neutral point of view, there are many other frameworks that are available out there that I see other companies follow as well. So for example, there's something called trusted concept. Trusted, again, 99% the pillars remain same, like transparency, reliability, all those things. So 99% the concept remains same, but there is a trusted format, stride format. There are different concepts available in the market. But I would say there's one more layer that comes with responsible AI, which is your compliance and privacy by design. So when I say privacy by design, most of the companies are by default 27001 certified, right? So there are some concepts that comes in SOC 2 compliant, GDPR, HIPAA, all these things, right? So EU has its AI Act now. NIST AI RMF has come up. So there are some compliance, you can say, frameworks that also has responsible AI as part of their purview. So that's where I would also say that compliance and responsible AI should go hand in hand. But those were the 6 pillars that I mentioned that we follow in Microsoft blindly.
One practical confusion which people have when I'm talking to my customers is they are not very clear about solutions which are based on Copilot for Microsoft 365, for example, and Copilot Studio. There's a world of difference between the two in terms of, but people feel no, both are similar. What is the difference? So can you explain in simple words these two different models which we're talking and why it is so different? Yeah. Shalabh, you want to take this up?
Yeah, I think briefly what you can say is right. Like Copilot Studio is a playground, right, where you can expand and work in a no-code, low-code fashion. The data sources may not necessarily be limited to your, that I would call the Copilot ecosystem overall as a tightly packed container. So Microsoft is taking that data, they are able to govern it for you. You have that data security, in place. But with Copilot Studio, it may not necessarily be the thing because you can add data sources outside of your M365 or your Copilot designated stack as well. Um, with what I have seen, you can even start attaching more than the OpenAI model. I think you can now, from what I read last week, you can even go to Claude and use the Sonnet 4.5, 3.5, and with that, it is great because that allows you to experiment. It allows you to have more control over your workflow, the type of actions that you will take. You can define your own instruction. But from a security perspective, do remember that when you are getting more data sources in or you are giving those instructions to the agent, it is not 100% in control of what Microsoft has trained it on, what system prompts we have given, right? You are writing on top of it. Therefore, again, in that shared responsibility model, you slightly move away from a SaaS offering to the left between SaaS and PaaS. And therefore, the risks which are associated are also owned by you because obviously we are not completely controlling that information. We are not 100% defining those actions. So when you do it, please be aware about what you're putting in and take ownership of that risk factor.
Aman, you want to add something to that?
No, I was about to say only one thing: SaaS versus PaaS. So It's basically service and DIY, do
Absolutely.
it yourself.
Yeah, it's very simple. In very simple words for everybody on the call here, when you use Copilot for Microsoft 365, your data, everything is based in Microsoft 365 tenant. There are identities set there, there are boundaries set there. So Microsoft says Copilot will not cross those M365 tenant boundaries. Full stop. But when you move to Copilot Studio, it's a different world. You can actually connect not just the tenant, you can, connect it to anything. You can connect it to Oracle database, you can connect it to your other applications, just about anything. There, Microsoft says, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Don't hold me equally responsible as you were doing for M365 Copilot. Here, the model is changes. So SaaS versus PaaS, a very simple example. Yeah, that's a perfect way to go about it, because that's how it will be. So we need to understand Copilot Studio and Copilot for Microsoft 365 are two different animals, and we need to treat these two in very, very differently. Especially when we are looking at Copilot Studio, we should be pretty much on the alert in terms of how I'm going to guard my stuff, right? Okay. Now, closing questions. Are, are you aware of any Microsoft funded programs or assessments that SMBs can take to leverage or strengthen their security?
So from an
Very
SMB
sure.
perspective, like there are two, three things that people can, vouch for. So one is the Copilot Ready assessment. I think probably I shared in one of the other sessions also we did that time. So it's a questionnaire based, AI Ready assessment, which is there. It'll simple, I think 10 or 12 questions are there. It'll help you understand where you are currently. It's free to take, so it's available freely on our website, and then you can get a good understanding of where you are. The second thing I would recommend is again from a partner standpoint, probably Suresh, you can come in, where we are working with our partners to have an AI related assessment happen from what is running in your environment, what type of data you are accessing, and what type of information that is surfacing. So it's not directly that we are going ahead and doing it with customers, but we are doing it in collaboration with our partners.
Okay, great. So
I'll
you have
probably
been
add a
agreed
link
to,
also to the
yeah,
to
yeah.
the chat.
Please
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
sure.
That would be great if you can add the link so that people on the call can, probably much make me right. Okay, now if an SMB wants to start its AI journey securely, what should be the first 3 steps? Both
So
of you.
maybe I can
Yeah,
go
on.
first here. Last question, I had no clue, so maybe I will go this one. First is, see, as I was saying, everything starts with data. So ensure you have 100% control on your data, where your data is sitting, what the sensitivity controls are, if your controls are clearly defined or not. Do you have some sort of classification available? I'm sure they might SMB company might not have the 100% controls compared to someone who might be doing it for years. But just have a control of the lay of the land, where your data is sitting, who has access to what. Anyway, I assume your teams are lean. The controls are much more leaner but stronger. So know your data first. Second, put some sort of governance policy in place. Have a set of approved tool sets so that you know what to do. One advantage a SMB might have is you have smaller the team, better the control, better the message landing, right? So it is even better. You can have those policies, those communication landed to your workforce and to your teams. And last but not the least, identity, which everything starts with identity. Like I was saying, if my identities are fixed as an individual, it does not matter which agent I build, how many agents I build, and which models I bring in. If I have proper control on my identity, my children's identity will be managed accordingly. My machine children's identity will be managed accordingly. So fix identity at the core, fix access at the core so that your guardrails are there. I think these 3 steps, if you do to begin with, that's 80-90% of your problem should solve. And then, of course, course, we take it as it comes, depending on the business needs.
So here, I've seen Shalabh has posted some beautiful links in the chat. Would request people on the call to use those for doing their assessments. That should be very, very useful. And we also now going to post, my team will post a feedback form. Want you to please fill up the feedback form immediately so that, there are certain questions here which are going to be very, very useful to us to plan out. And there are certain security assessments. If you want to take up those secure Microsoft funded security assessment, you can mention that in that feedback form. So there are some great useful benefits for you. Now, Shalabh, Aman mentioned about those three things. What's one piece of advice for SMB leaders worried about AI security and compliance?
I'll break this down into two parts, although the advice is overall just one thing, right? So, like we said, security is ultimately about tools and processes and people, right? So, the foremost thing is making your workforce security and AI aware, right? So, right now, the adoption is mostly happening through influencer marketing about AI in general, right? And just by word of mouth, at least that's what I have seen. So, they're not properly trained on what kind of data can go in, what should they be asking, uh, basic hygiene checks, right? So employee training would be my first suggestion because they form the weakest link and they should be properly aware about what can go wrong. And if something goes wrong, what can you do about it? And second, I think just like Aman said, have a basic AI governance, structure in place. Are you managing your identities, non-human identities in particular? Are you labeling your documents properly, right? Are you, putting proper, DLP policy so that they don't, have over permission or like they don't get into the, exfiltration type of a situation. And then, of course, if you have visibility into what is running into your environment, which is the discovery aspect, then that covers the trio and you have good understanding of what your lay of the land is. So those are my two most important things I think that any organization should start with. And then, of course, as they build upon, as they get more mature, then, detective controls can be put in place as well.
So this was something which was very important because what we have seen is we have been based on the customer feedback, we started the process of corporate workshops. So
Very good.
saying that, have a workshop where we tell you what all you can do because AI need not be very expensive to start with, especially if you are a Microsoft 365 user, you get the Copilot chat, which comes bundled with M365. And believe me, you can do a lot with it, a lot with it. But instead of trying to DIY, do it yourself, take a corporate workshop. In that corporate workshop, we will take you through the various, a little bit of theory behind the Copilot stuff, agents and all that stuff, and then the use cases. And then once you get used to it, then next step should be Copilot licenses for a core team, and then agents. And that's how you should scale up, really speaking, if you ask me. And please, AI is here to stay. Okay. For people who are inquisitive about finance, if you were to look at the US market, all the GDP increase is coming through the data centers. You remove the investments being made in these data centers, US GDP is zero, literally zero. Okay. So AI is here to stay. We all will be using AI. So why not use it more responsibly and take it up? So the feedback form has been shared in the chat. If there are any questions
Maybe,
from anyone, please.
maybe
Aman.
Suresh, in that last question, I will give a very different thought to that question. So I was just thinking that I was just imagining if I am the CIO or CTO of a SME company, I would say the three steps that Shalabh and myself we mentioned, I would say before going to that three steps, think that AI is of three types. One, I'm using AI for my own internal use for productivity gains. Whether my team is using for coding, like M365, for making PPTs, for emails, for sales, for whatever, for security, phishing triage, whatnot. Second, I am using AI for my end customer. For example, if I am an e-commerce website, people can come and use some model or some assistant on my website, put some input, get the end-to-end sales cycles get accelerated, basically for the end consumer. So that's AI for business, AI for internals. And third, everything that my company and my customers are using, that is not controlled by me. Right. So ideally, I think the first step should be there are three types of AI. And now I put those three steps in all these three categories. So I just thought I will give this perspective as well because I just put myself in their shoes and then started thinking. So there can be different versions of AI and then you act accordingly.
Perfectly, because
Very
see,
well put. Yeah.
we all are learning, right? We all are in the
Mm.
learning phase right now. I would even go to say even Microsoft is in the learning phase right now. There are
Definitely.
things
Yeah.
which are, checklists and, best practices. They'll get evolved, but that doesn't mean that you wait till it get evolved. No, no, you'll be left behind. It's as simple as that. I personally cannot think of any day where I've used the Copilot for less than 10 times, believe me. Sometimes I use a researcher, sometimes I'll use the work tab, sometimes you do the web tab. I mean, I keep using it for a lot of stuff, really speaking. Today it's become a part and parcel of my workflow in all practical. And I don't think, oh God, I'm using AI. No, I feel this is how I have to use. There's no other way. If I use other way, then there's something wrong with me, that kind of stuff. So people on the call, please note that AI, do encourage AI, but do encourage use of responsible AI. That's the key. And for that, a starting point could be, we have done a lot of workshops, but if you have not done a workshop, do a workshop in your office, your company. That will kickstart everything. And then you go on building over it. And we will keep coming out with these sessions, which we are having right now, based on the demand, based on what customers want. This is what our customers said that they wanted, right? Shalab, any closing remarks from you?
Yeah, I think just from your point, right? AI is here to stay, and you will see AI just becoming omnipresent, just like internet has become omnipresent in today's time, right? Um, you instead of deterministic applications running on your system, you'll have small SLMs running everywhere, communicating with each other. A lot of times you'll not know what the outcome will be. We have to get accustomed to it, and with that, the risk which are associated, we cannot fully remove those risks. We need to understand how to manage it and govern them. So the sooner we start with it, the better it is.
Aman, closing remarks from you.
I think I will just repeat. I was thinking about some one-liners I gave. Maybe I will just repeat that. First thing, you if you can't secure it, you can't scale it. Everybody needs AI, like you said. So better secure it because everybody wants to scale. Second, I don't know who should I give credit to, but I saw this at a customer place. Trust is the currency for AI. So responsible AI, content safety, all these are very, very important. And third, uh, giving the other aspect, you might be using AI for your customers as well, right? Not only for your people. So people won't use what they won't trust. So you need to ensure your AI is secure enough, your AI is robust enough, responsible enough, so that people who are using, whether it's your employees or your end customers, they trust it. And overall, your brand is also linked to it, right? So I would say these three, four things are very, very important. And that's why you should seriously think about securing AI and responsible use of AI.
Fantastic. So call to action, there are a couple of call to actions which I'll mention. First is a feedback form has been posted in the chat. It's a very short form, will take you hardly 1.5 minutes. Please do fill it up. Second is if you want to kickstart a corporate workshop and get the AI started, just mention yes in that feedback form, and then our team will reach out to you and then you can plan out it. Number three, there are certain Microsoft funded security assessments. Eligible organizations can get a free assessment. Again, in that feedback form, you can tick it yes. And finally, if you want to book a 30-minute consult on AI governance for your current Microsoft stack, more than happy to do that. I can mention it in the comments there. And Thank you, Shalab. Thank you, Aman, for this wonderful gyan which you have shared with us, right? And I'm sure that we will, the people who were on the call, they got something concrete from here. And based on that, you can plan out your AI strategy. And we will be mailing you certain resources. And thank you to the speakers, my speaker guests, and also to all the people, all the customers who have come on the call. Thanks very much.